Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Supermom School podcast. I am so delighted to introduce to you one of my friends today. Her name is Bonnie. Bonnie, can you pronounce your last name for me? It's Dueck. Is that right?
You got it perfect.
Yay. Bonnie Dueck. I actually discovered Mom Mastery University and CCA partly through Bonnie's influence. She reached out to me. We got to know each other through that. And she's a fellow coach and Canadian, right?
Yes, you bet.
Yeah. And she's agreed to be on the show today. She's going to talk to us a little bit about some of the things that she's most passionate about, which, oh my goodness, I'm so excited about the things that we're going to talk about today. So welcome to the show, Bonnie. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks so much for inviting me, Mary. It's just such a pleasure to see everything that you're doing. And I love to be here and support you in that and share about how amazing being a coach, getting coaching is, and all the rest of that. So
Awesome. Yeah, I love doing this life together. Like, it's the way to go. So how about to get us started, tell us a little bit about who you are, some of your like where you live, family, what makes you a super mom yourself?
you mean besides the fact that says I'm a
Besides
super mom?
the mom that's like, this is my superpower. I love it.
So a bit about me. I live in central Canada. I grew up in the East Coast. I'm from a gigantic family growing up, and I'm married. We have a blended family, 3 kids between us, and I'm currently raising my grandson.
Okay. And how old's your grandson right now?
He's almost 2.
Okay, so you're still in that little toddler stage,
Oh,
everything everywhere.
yeah, everything everywhere, up in the night, snuggles, don't hit the dog, that kind of stuff. So adorable, little jam hugs and kisses and wanting to sit on my lap and eat all my food, that kind of.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, so you're a coach, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how did you get into that? What was your journey to get there?
Well, in a nutshell, it started with MMU first. So for those of you who don't know, MMU is Mom Mastery University, and it's like a faith-based life coaching program where we go through coaching series. It's recorded, we listen to it, we do homework, and we connect with other moms to encourage us at our own pace to work on the areas of our life that we're struggling in. And so when I found Mom Mastery University 5 years ago, I was overwhelmed, overweight. I worked way too hard. Nothing was ever good enough. I didn't feel like I could ever stop. I probably hadn't laughed in 10 years for sure. And it was just, how can I make it through the next day and not kill anyone or whatever? Like I had no joy. And so when I joined Mom Mastery University and connected with these other women, I started seeing change in my life. And that was huge. Like my husband said, I finally have my life back. And really encouraged me. And I would move forward, and then I would move back, and I would do it, and then I would stop, and I couldn't figure out what kept making me stop.
Like
right?
getting in the way of progress.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember that there was something one of our coaches did. It was like where she got us together and she, you'd listen in and she would volunteer to coach like anybody for like 15 minutes. And so I would listen in, and it's like, what is she doing? Because I was seeing the transformation. Like I invited everybody I knew. I'd be like, anyone I knew who was struggling, I'm like, you got to check out this link at this time, whatever. And I saw some people that I knew who were struggling with, self-harm and with just being a newly single mom and stuff like that. And I saw them transform in 15 minutes. And I'm like, what is that formula? I want to know. And so when I heard about the opportunity to become a coach, I was like, yes. Now, my back history, I have a daughter who struggles with mental health and addiction issues. And so I've had a huge passion for most of my life for people specifically who struggle with addiction and people who are affected by people who have addiction.
Mm.
What I realized, like I used all of those tools to help my daughter,
Right.
help myself, and to change sort of how I viewed things.
Let me stop you right there. I want to ask you a question that I'm really
Okay.
curious about. So you became a coach and you realized that a lot of these tools, like in Mom Mastery University and as a coach, like they helped your daughter. If you had to go back and do this all over again, would it be worth it to get the tools just for that, even if you weren't doing it as a business?
Oh, 100%.
Okay. Yeah.
Like there is no doubt. Like just for me alone,
Mm.
just so that I remember that I was taking the coach training and my daughter was in crisis. And it was right at the beginning of the COVID pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that my old response would have been, suck it up.
Mm.
You know, I would have said something like that to her, like, suck it up. You're a big girl. You got this. Like another excuse. And it was so interesting that where I was in the coach training at that exact time, I had just taken about active listening and reflecting back and just really hearing the heart of the person. And I put it into practice with her. And the outcome meant that she didn't give up on her sobriety. Now, at that time, we did not know she was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
So it literally saved my grandson's life.
Mm.
Whether it actually saved her from committing suicide, I'm not sure, but
Wow.
it for sure saved his life because he would have been turned out completely different if she had fully relapsed and gone back into a life of drugs and homelessness at that time. And so, I mean, just that alone,
That's so powerful.
I can't put a price tag on that.
Sure. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad I asked because yeah, just the stories of how God uses things in our lives. Like that's what we have these for. Like that's what this is all about is like hearing like God really does meet the need right there where we're at with that kind of thing. Oh my goodness. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that part of your story. That's beautiful. Yeah. Okay. So moving on to you.
So I used a lot of my coach training to actually help her friends who were also addicts in recovery.
Okay. Gotcha.
At the time. And that was my passion, was to help people who were struggling. And that's where I could see a need, right? Was that people who felt things so deeply and just didn't even know how to move forward because they didn't feel worthy in any way, shape, or form.
Mm.
And what I realized over time is that we all struggle with addiction.
So
I had a house full of crap. I can't even begin to tell you. And I mean, I would think about this house with all this stuff that I thought because of, for whatever reason, I wasn't good enough. I didn't feel good about myself. I felt good to buy this antique thing and restore this piece of junk or whatever to this beautiful thing made me feel special. Do things really make us feel special, or is that just a feeling that we assign to it?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And this idea of how can I have the life I want when there's all these things I have to do first? Like first I have to have the perfect body.
Mm-hmm.
Because how can my husband really want to, how can my husband really want to make love to me if I'm not in shape, right? If I'm not the ideal shape, how can I be free?
Right.
How can I have people over when my house is a disaster? And can I have people over without constantly apologizing for not doing it right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the whole, my kids aren't perfect. And I realize that there's actually a heart issue because, all good coaches have coaches.
Right. Oh my goodness.
I would say
if they're doing it well, they have
right. Right. I mean, I got to confess, I had a coaching session last night with my coach, and I have regular coaching sessions and I have more than one coach because how can I be my best me if I can't see the areas that I'm falling short in and where I'm struggling? And I may not even realize I was struggling. So that's the point I was kind of trying to get to, is that I used to think it was all these people, addictions, who struggled with things. And the more I coached people who struggled with addictions, I realized it's the same stuff that keeps me from moving into the dream life that I want.
Right.
It's too overwhelming to lose the weight. So I'm not going to start.
Mm-hmm.
Because this cookie tastes really good right now.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
I'll start after the next one.
Exactly. I only got, I read a post the other day on Facebook, and it was something like, I thought you were on a diet. Says the one person, yeah, why are you eating donuts? I only had 3. Well, see, I'm on a diet. I wanted 4. Right. But what I realized is that all moms, all people everywhere, and it starts with me, that what I'm struggling with, I'm actually projecting onto my kids. So when I feel like I'm not good enough, I'm actually projecting that onto my kids. If I'm not good enough and I'm your ideal, you're certainly not good enough.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that.
Wow. That's huge. That's huge. And it carries on to then, if we're believing those lies, and then it actually prevents us from helping them take steps forward too. Like, without realizing it, we sabotage them at the same time we're trying to help them. So it's like, come this way with our hand up and saying, no, but come, but no. Yeah. That's huge. So now that things are kind of shifted, you recognize, okay, addiction is huge. We actually all have addictions, which I totally relate to, like the scrolling, addiction to scrolling, addiction to food, addiction to sleep, addiction to, I mean, all kinds of things.
Shopping, binge watching Netflix.
My goodness, yes. Yeah. To now you've got this shift of recognizing that that like we don't have to be a certain way before we get started. So what have you found that's resourceful for moving forward and or helping other people? How does that work?
So as a coach, I help my clients break things down into bite-sized pieces.
Okay.
Right. And one of my favorite pictures that I help people create is your life is a journey. It's not a destination.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like someday, once I have this swimming body, then I will go swimming. Then I'll put on the bathing suit. No, I do not have the swimming body at the moment. I had lost the weight. I gained a bunch back. COVID, having a baby, not sleeping, doing all the things. Am I worried about it? Nope. Scheduled my grandson for swimming lessons. We're in the pool next week. Whatever I look like, it's okay. Because it's about the experience. It's about enjoying the moment. And the idea of creating a vignette. Now, I don't know if you know what a vignette is, but it's like a photograph. It's sort of an old-fashioned photography term. And it's where you like make the edges and the background sort of blurred and darker so that you can really focus on something that's special, usually a portrait of a person
right
in the center. And so I've come up with this idea of creating vignettes in my life. So like, for example, yesterday, the little vignette, the little moment that I just like cherished and like focused in on and held was holding my little grandson on my knee, and he was eating my shreddies out of my bowl with his runny nose and his little fingers and whatever. And I'm like, I know that this moment, it doesn't matter everything else imperfect that happened during the day. It's like, I'm taking this moment and I'm just enjoying it. It's not about my weight. It's not about my perfect house. It's not about having all the things and doing all the things right. It's about taking a moment and just valuing it. This is my life, because today is my life. Talking to you is my life. Is this something I want in my life? Yes, I do.
Right. Yeah, that's beautiful. This reminds me a lot of the concept, and I know we talk about this in our coach training of uh, getting the order of be, do, have right. Like we start with who do we want to be today? And your vignette kind of reminds me of that. Like, so that picture of you being with your grandson and sort of embracing that moment and who you're called to be first, and then choosing what you're going to do from that place, brings so much joy, rather than getting it all twisted around and say I have to do this thing in order to be identified as a good grandma, or I have to do this, I have to lose the weight in order to be a good swimmer, in order to have a great body that can put on a bathing suit, that kind of thing. It's that it's reversed, and it's interesting. It's really the way that God designed it for us to do it in that order of the be first, get your identity squared away, and then the results on the other end. Um, it sounds like the two things kind of go together there with your vignette picture. That's beautiful.
Absolutely. And I would, I know it sounds nice having my little grandson sitting on my lap eating shreddies. Most of my vignette moments are in the middle of the night when I'm exhausted and he's screaming his head off because there's a thunder and lightning storm, or he woke up and he was thirsty, or his diaper was wet, and getting up and I've got no sleep. I've got, my head is pounding. I've got tons of things to do the next day. And those are more often my vignette moments.
Mhm.
I'm taking and I'm enjoying his little hand reaching up and grabbing my hair and playing with my neck or whatever. And just realizing that this is a moment he needed me and I'm here and I love him. And
Yeah,
it doesn't matter how I feel. And it doesn't matter that my hair is sticking up in every different direction.
it's so true.
I'm
Yeah,
here, you know?
right. Yeah, it reminds me, like, that's the stuff that memories are created from anyway. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know of very many times when I'm like, you know what, I have this wonderful memory of that day that just went exactly like it was supposed to. Like most of the memories that we have, something interrupted the norm, something came into it that was unexpected. And sometimes we interpret it pleasantly, and sometimes we interpret it as like, oh no, this is a disaster, that like that's a mental shift that we do. But either way, it's something that came in that was outside the norm that then creates the memory that we have, and we look back and we think, oh my goodness, remember that time when
Everything
that,
went wrong.
yes, right.
And
Like
how we
those are they're the fond moments in our lives.
exactly. The
Yeah.
flip side of that is there are so many memories in our life that we don't have. So think about this. Growing up, what is your earliest memory and how many memories do you actually have before age 10?
Not
How
very
many
many.
times how many times do we as moms beat ourselves up that we're just not a good enough mom? We're not doing it right. We're not parenting right. We're not all the things. We're not measuring up to the mom next door. And we're not even, and how does that make us feel when we put all this pressure on ourselves because we're ruining our children? It's a
Yeah.
belief. It's not true, because the reality is we're doing the best we can with what we have, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But what if you could let go of all of that pressure and just be in the moment with your kids? Like, hey, guess what? I'm exhausted today. I was up half the night with my grandson. Does everything need to be perfect here? Can I just like let it go and do what needs to be done and put the judgment aside? Because who needs that? And just focus on what's important.
Yeah. This moment, this child right now,
Yeah,
today.
we fed them.
Yeah.
Does it matter what we fed them? No. We fed
Hey,
them.
check.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. And that's where with a coach, it's like helping you to let go of that. It's
Mhm.
what my coach does for me. And that's what I do for others that I
Mhm.
coach is getting out past yourself, like just taking all that pressure off yourself and saying, okay, what is the true vision? Where am I actually headed? Am I making a step in the direction of, I'll use the example of, I'm going to Edmonton to visit my sister. And if, as a coach, I have someone who's coaching me and they say, okay, where do you want to go? And I'm like, Edmonton. Every time I pass a direction that says this way to Edmonton, I'm going to like cue in and go, oh, yeah, I should be taking a step in that direction.
Yeah.
And that's kind of taking off the perspectives that aren't serving us. I don't need to be wearing your glasses to walk around to see my life. My only thing. And just adjusting my perspective and walking in the path of the direction that I want to go. And that's what a coach does, is like, is that really the direction you want to go?
Right.
And then I'm like, oh yeah, no. Oh, I didn't realize I was heading the opposite direction, you know?
Right. That clarity of, wait, you said you wanted to go here, but you just turned the opposite direction. Are you, what did you want to do? And getting really clear. That, yeah, I love it. It's a great analogy.
And a coach will call you on it. So my coach last night, I'm going to be open. Okay. Hope this is okay.
Absolutely.
My coach last night was coaching me on doing my taxes. I have not done my taxes in over 3 years.
All right. Getting them done.
Paperwork is something that defeats me. It's a belief I had, right? It is that true.
Is it true that it defeated you in the past? Is that what you're saying?
No, that I can't do it.
Oh, right. No, it's not
right?
true. You can't
just because it's just, exactly. And so just like going, well, can I start with what I know? Well, what do you know? What are the first steps? When can you do that by? I know that sounds so silly, but 3.5 years later, it's not silly. I am a coach, and yet I have not arrived in all areas of my life. I need a coach to help me move past my obstacles and things that I go into this like panic mode, I guess. My heart races and I feel like I'm really not good at this and this is terrible and I don't want to do it and it's not fun. And yet, how do I go push myself to go through and get it done? Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can hire somebody, but I haven't done that either. Right. Like, I don't have to do it all. And hire someone to help. And I may resort to that for the end, for when I've finished doing what I'm doing. If I get to the end and I still, there's pieces left that I need help with, maybe it's just that I need to get help. Right. But starting is the step.
Yeah.
But
I would even say what you're saying about that whole thought process, a lot of that thought process is not something that people are capable of, like, even getting that far. They're like, oh, I should do my taxes. This plant needs to be watered. Like, and that's as far as it gets. Like, there's no more. Does that make sense? Like, we didn't go.
You could ask my coach how many times I changed the subject during our coaching session last night. So I think you're buffering is what she calls it.
Yes, buffering. Right.
So is taxes really the issue? Or are you just trying to avoid it?
Yep. It's interesting. I might step on some toes, but I think, like, I think a lot of us do that. And at the risk of offending somebody, I think there's a lot of us that call it ADHD.
Oh, yeah.
And it is not, it's just buffering from the thing that we don't like, we feel uncomfortable with taking action on.
Yeah, that we don't feel successful in. So, I don't feel successful in paperwork. So I know I'm going to go do something that I do feel really good at.
Right.
That I get that guaranteed success in. I'll fix something for someone because, I'm really good at fixing and problem solving. And then I'm helping someone else. So that's a really good thing, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I've got
not doing anything with my problem.
Yeah. See, remember, you are successful. That's how it ends up feeling like, oh, I'm not so bad. This is good. But we still didn't do the thing that, like, we didn't take the action that needed to be taken. Yeah. And to circle back around, there we are stuck waiting for something to happen significantly so that we can take the step that, to make things happen at that point. Waiting on XYZ to jump in the water or decide we're going to swim. Yeah, it's good. So I want to ask you a couple questions before we wrap up here. One of them is, if somebody were coming, I know you have a lot of people come to you, have consultations all the time with people, doing a lot of coaching. What do you think is something that people aren't asking that you wish they were in order to get results in these types of areas? Is there anything that comes to mind, like, man, I really like, if they only knew to ask this question, I could answer it for them, so that then they would like move forward? Anything come to mind? It's a little bit of a confusing thing.
So you mean in a consultation or in a coaching session?
Just in like if somebody were coming to you, but they don't even know the right question to ask to get help, what do you think would be the question that you would be like, oh, this is the question to ask to like get results?
I think in order to get results, you have to be willing to do the work. And I don't know if there's a right question other than to just say, hey, I'm stuck, or I want something other than what I have. Because very often the people who come to me for coaching, they'll come to me for coaching because they need help with doing their taxes, or cleaning their house, or being a better mom, or being a better wife, or dealing with some family member or friend that has addiction or mental health issues, challenge, right? They'll come to me with a problem, a situation, but the situation actually isn't the problem. It's just what they made it mean to them, right? So when I can't do my taxes, I haven't done it. It's because I've made it mean to me that I'm a failure. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. When my house isn't clean, I've made it mean that I can't have people over because they'll look down on me, right? But maybe that's the reason that I have a messy house, is because I'm so afraid of other people rejecting me that the excuse of having all this stuff prevents me from having people over so I don't get rejected.
That's so good. So I think what I hear you saying is like, the problem isn't actually the problem.
Exactly.
And the sooner you realize that the problem is not the actual problem, you can get results a lot faster.
Yeah, because the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And what I've noticed in consultation, because when I do a consultation, I also do a strategy session at the same time, where we talk about all the different areas of your life, where you'd rate it, what you're struggling with, where you'd like it to be, what's standing in the way. And it's like this common thread of worthiness, time, money, all the things, right? But
yeah, you can see common threads, and you can also start. I love that the way that goes, because then you can also, not only do you see common threads, but you can also see sometimes like where there's a huge need in this area, you can see where they're compensating, like by distracting in a different area of their life. And using that as the like, I don't have to work on this because I'm working on this over here, and that resistance piece. That's so cool that you do that. That's awesome. What a great service for your clients. So which leads me to the other question. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you and reach out to get one of those consultations, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, I have a website and I have an email. They're both similar. So bonniejoyliving.com is my website.
Okay.
bonniejoyliving@gmail.com is my email address.
Okay. bonniejoyliving.com. That's awesome. I'll make sure it's in the show notes, and that way people can get in touch with you. That's great.
Joy is my middle name.
That's an added bonus. That's fun.
Mhm.
Awesome. All right, BonnieJoyLiving.com. You heard it. Bonnie, thank you so much for being on the show today and talking a little bit about what you're doing for other people and the service that you have, as well as for being so open about how you're growing too. I think that's so important for people to hear, for our listeners to know that even as coaches, we're always growing. We all do that. We all, if we choose to, right? We have an opportunity to continue growing. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll talk again soon.
Thank you.